Now, I'm very excited. Welcome back. One of our favorite guests and best totals bettors that I know, Mr. Kyle Hunter from HunterSportsPicks.com. You can follow Kyle on X at Kyle Hunter Picks. Kyle, here we are, right smack dab in March Madness, my friend. How are you doing? Nice Kansas hat.
Yeah, I hadn't worn the Kansas hat in a while, so I just kind of pulled it out. There's no real reason for wearing the Kansas hat. I know they're playing right now as we speak, but it's great to be here in March and my favorite month of the year as far as a sports fan. Love the NCAA tournament and excited to talk about some of the games here to finish up conference tournament week, and then we got Selection Sunday right around the corner.
Ooh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was wondering, is that Kansas hat having any hidden meaning to it? I guess we'll see. I mean, they always get a good draft pick, so that's always something for the NBA. But anyways, this is college basketball. This isn't a league where a third of the teams are tanking to try to get draft picks, and that's what makes me love college basketball even more. Is the fact that everybody in these tournaments, especially now, they're trying their asses off. You know, they're doing whatever it takes to try to make it to the next level, and I love that. And I love that about college basketball, and I know you do too, Kyle. I think there's something special about it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. College hoops is different. I love the effort that there is, and I feel like even when they're down pretty big, they keep trying all the way to the finish, especially if they're well coached. And this is the time of the year that we see some Cinderella stories, and I love that as well.
Absolutely. I was on North Carolina plus 18 and a half against Duke. They're down 25 at the end. They came back and lost by 15. So I was pretty happy with that. But Duke in a little trouble. I had Florida State plus 17 and a half today, and that was not a sweat at all. I was really, really looking at Florida State there, and I was like, man, they have a shot to win that game, and it's been pretty crazy. And was happy to see a close game. And man, they had a really great shot to win there. And I feel bad for Florida State because if you look at like how teams are playing right now, they're better than a lot of tournament teams.
Absolutely, they're playing good at the end of the season, and Duke, questionable as to whether they care to win by margin. I think that was a good play, obviously, and I mean Florida State could have won that game absolutely if they shot a little bit better from the free throw line. And Duke with some injuries, and I don't know that they care as much about this tournament as the tournament coming up. So I think Duke is probably still a little bit overpriced on the conference tournament here.
Yeah, Florida, especially with the injuries, Florida State's the number 26 team since February 1st on Bark Torvik right now. So they are really red hot. But let's talk about what you specialize in, under the radar teams that could make some noise in the NCAA tournament. And Kyle, I think the last time I had you on, I regret to say I picked Belmont, and they couldn't even make it to the big dance because they got bounced by a just red hot, terrible Drake team. Terrible team, but yeah, that's how it is. Red hot, and what are you supposed to do? And Drake beat Southern Illinois, and they just shot lights against Belmont. And even Casey Alexander might be taking the Kansas State job, from what I'm starting to hear too, which is very interesting. But I mean, who do you have? And you can include anybody that's won it so far, or anybody you think is going to win it.
So I'm going to take Northern Iowa. I really like the way they're coached. They play really good defense. They get defensive rebounds. Kiev, I think you know this about me, but they've been one of my favorite under teams for many years. Love taking Northern Iowa unders because if they do get the lead, they're really good at taking the air out of the ball and having a lower scoring last few minutes. Now, not saying that they'll be a great under bet in the NCAA tournament because they're going to be an underdog, whoever they play against. But I think that's the type of team that could pull a big upset. Because senior laden team, veterans, really good rebounders, they play good defense. They're going to keep it lower scoring than most teams. So, depending on the matchup, I think Northern Iowa could surprise some people. Without projecting too much, the only other one that I could say, I think Akron could make some noise if they get into it from the MAC. A team that I don't know, for a little bit there, they had a hiccup against Buffalo today, but I think Akron's a pretty good team that could do a little bit of damage as well. And if you're talking about teams that could be making more noise than I think, I also have a bigger name team that I think could make a little bit deeper run. But do you have any under the radar ones?
Yeah, and they haven't played yet. South Florida is one that I think now could be my pick. I mean, since December 17th, when they lost to Alabama by 11 points, they've only went to over. They lost 3 games, 2 by overtime, and 1 by 1 point. And I find that pretty dang impressive. And it's not like the American Athletic is bad because you got a number 55 ranked Tulsa there. You got Wichita State's in the top 100 there. You know, Memphis is always kind of tough. They got talent there. They're not as good this year, but this team could hang with some other teams. And I'm going to take a good look at South Florida, maybe Wright State a little bit. But to be honest with you, Kyle, out of all the ones that won so far, it's weird for me. I'm not impressed by any of them. I'm not impressed at all. This ain't like Murray State, like, when they had, what's his name? John Morant, right? This is a situation where I think these teams aren't that good, but I also think the like anything a 5-seeder or higher in the power conferences are bad too. It's like I'm kind of like looking at the tournament here, and I'm going to see a lot of these match up in 5-12s, 4-13s, 6-11s, these matchups, Kyle. And I'm going to be really looking, even though I don't love like the South Dakota States and stuff, I'm going to look at them against these really non-deserving like Indiana's and whoever's going to make it in. If Auburn makes it in, those really disgusting teams that we want to fade.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been too many of the top seeds get knocked off in the mid-major conferences, the Belmonts, the UNC Wilmingtons, teams like that were clearly the best teams in the league. Then they lose in their first or second game in the conference tournament. Those would have been tough teams in the, 13 seed range, something like that. So don't you think that the 12, 13, 14 seeds are going to be worse than what they usually have been? I think that's something to keep an eye on.
Yes, I think they're going to be worse than what they're, usually were going to be. But at the same time, I also think the 5 seeds are. So that's going to make it kind of interesting too. I think that we're really top heavy again, Kyle. And that kind of leads into my next question here. How are you looking at the 1 seeds? Because is it going to be like last year where we get 4 1 seeds making the Final Four? Then people like my wife filling out their bracket wins it all.
Right.
I mean, what are we going to get this year? Because, I mean, if you remember last year, I felt that Duke, Houston, Florida, and Auburn were just miles ahead of everybody. I guess UConn did give Florida some fits, but I'll also say Florida played a bad game against UConn and had to come back. Florida wasn't great in the tournament every single game. And then, I just feel like those 4 teams are just so much better than the rest that I'm kind of scared that this year our top 4 teams are the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, I share your sentiments that there's not that many good teams. The depth is not really there. Are the top 4 teams better than teams that we've seen in the past? I don't know that the 4 number 1 seeds are going to be the best teams we've seen in many years or anything, but I don't think the teams that are just below them are as good as normal. So it might make them look like they're a bit better than they are if you compare them to other years. Now, if you say, okay, Michigan and Duke, I think they're probably a little bit of a cut above the rest if Duke's healthy at least and good to go. Arizona, they're in 3rd. I know Florida's the 4th favorite. Houston's the 5th favorite. Kiev, wouldn't it shock you quite a bit if somebody outside that group of 4 or 5 wins the tournament? I mean, I don't really know who I would take to win the tournament outside the top 5 or so.
I would say I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked because this is the tournament.
Yeah.
I would say I would be surprised. So yes, I'm leading into what, I was kind of hinting in earlier. I would say that if a team like a Wisconsin gets hot, they could mess some people up. And Iowa State, even UConn with that coach there. So it wouldn't. Now, if it's anyone out like any weird one, like a Virginia this year or a St. John's or a Tennessee or something, then yeah, man, a Nebraska even, man, I'm going to be pretty shocked. And I feel that Arizona might be the one that I'm picking this year because they were hurt for a little while and still winning games. And they had a 2-game stretch where they, lost to Kansas and Texas Tech in overtime, and that's understandable. But I just feel like Arizona is a little bit better than a lot of teams. The problem with Michigan is they lost one of their guys, and they're a deep team just like Duke. But I mean, when you got LJ Kaysen, who played a lot of minutes on the shelf, and then you have Duke now with a couple guys on the shelf during this tournament, Najongba and Caleb Foster, 2 starters. Even if they come back, you don't know how healthy they are. So it's really interesting. But the strategy about filling the bracket, Kyle, guess what? I'm not the only one that thinks this. We're not the only ones that think these number ones are a cut above. And I do agree these aren't the best number ones. I think last year's number ones were better than all these. I really do. But I just think that the next step down is maybe that much farther down. But either way, it's going to be a fun tournament. And if you want to win, you got to pick somebody different, I think. Otherwise, it'd be like last year when Florida or Houston beat Duke, and you went from second place or first place down to 40th in one game, because that's how bunched up the Final Four was.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's funny. A couple of the teams you mentioned there, Wisconsin is the other team I was going to mention, Kiev, as far as a team that can make a deep run that people might not expect. I mean, I like your Badgers. I think they have a solid team. Their offense is so much better than they were in past years. They have multiple guys who can score. I don't think they can win it, but I think they could do some damage and go quite a ways. And, I'll be rooting for them to do it as long as they aren't playing the Buckeyes. I'll be rooting for Wisconsin. But, honestly, Ohio State's played a little bit better here lately, too. I'm not saying they're going to make a deep run or anything, but it's as a Buckeyes fan, I'm glad they've made a run to where I know that they're going to at least make the tournament, especially for Bruce Thornton. Like, he definitely deserves to get to play in the NCAA tournament in his time there at Ohio State. But I think that Michigan is the team that I would favor to win it all at this point. And, since the Big Ten has been so long since they've ever won a national championship, even as a Buckeyes fan, I'd be rooting for Michigan if they get to that point. So,
oh, wow.
I know. I told my son that the other day, and he's like, wait a minute.
What is wrong with you?
Just say?
Did he ask you to quit betting? Is that what happened? It's like you're betting on them. Yeah,
I thought I was joking. Yeah.
Well, what's funny is I bet the Packers. I'm a Bears fan. It's just betting is different, and what you see is what you see. And, you can be all fandom and the team up north, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is that you can wear different hats. You can take that hat off for your business hat, and then you can put your fan hat on later, and that's so funny. And we can get into all these discussions about emotional hedging and all that too. But, you never, to each his own is what I'm trying to say. There's no wrong way of doing these things. What's up, Bobby? Thanks for coming there, man. Glad you're tuning in. Yeah, US can't talk. South Florida's second half at Wichita State was very impressive. So they can turn it on when needed. So that is kind of my little sleeper going on here. So what about trends, Kyle? You're so great with these venues and where these games are played. What do you have for any trends to finish out these tournaments, or even something in the next week?
Well, the 3 arenas that kind of stand out to me, Kiev, here are Rocket Arena's 30-21 to the under, which is the MAC tournament. It's not drastic. I would say that this is probably one of the weaker ones. I don't want to just blindly bet unders there, but it's something to keep an eye on. Definitely bigger venue than they're used to playing in, and there's not that many people there. Akron and Kent always have a really good home court advantage because of how close it is to where they are. Big East, Madison Square Garden unders. I mean, we've talked about this for years, Kiev. It's about 58 and 57.5%, 58% in the Big East neutral site games there the last 15 years. And first half unders, I think, have done a little bit better than full game unders there. So Madison Square Garden, a great college under arena for sure.
Unless you're Xavier or Providence. Those are the teams that I don't even know how they just keep finding their ways over. But those two teams have been absolutely ridiculous with their overs this year.
True. Yeah, true. Took a Providence under early in the year, and I was like, no more of that. That was ridiculous. But fortunately was able to avoid it after the one. But I think the other one is PPG Paints Arena, where the A10 is being played. That one's trended pretty strongly to the under. It's not a large sample size, but they've gone under by enough, like, the average game going under by so much that I do think there's something to it. We're talking 4 points under in about 50 some games there on average. So pretty good number there. We've seen some low scoring games there today, even. That's one I'd keep an eye on as well. So three there that I think could be good for under betters. And as far as side trends, I don't see anything, that really stands out to me at this point. If you have a team that had to play, a fourth game in 4 days or something, the other team was only playing their second game in 4 days. Those teams tend to cover pretty well, backing the team that's more rested, but nothing else too drastic.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's go into some quick conference tournament stuff. So we saw the big upset this morning. I was watching here in the Pacific time, Miami, Ohio getting beat by UMass. And of course, the time I faded, Miami, Ohio was against UMass. The first one I thought they were going to win, and I lost. And then, of course, what UMass do, and they beat them in the freaking tournament. It's just so Frank Martin. But here we are, Miami, Ohio, undefeated, worst schedule in all of basketball. I mean, for the most part, let's just say, for any team that deserves any talking about, this is the easiest schedule I've seen in some time, but still going undefeated, Kyle. I mean, I've voiced my, thoughts enough that as long as they're not going against Alabama or the SEC, they're in, but you never know with this committee, Kyle. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been kind of tracking like the odds of what they have the odds at for them to make it at this point. I think it's somewhere in like the 65 or 70% chance that they'd make it. I think it's probably a little higher than that, but I think they should make it. And I know I'm a fan of the mid majors, so you could say that I'm a little bit unfair about this at times, although I am an Ohio State fan, so it's not like I'm just a mid majors guy. But Miami of Ohio beat everybody that was on their schedule throughout the course of the season, and a lot of teams don't really want to play them. So when they get in the non-conference and you say, well, they didn't play a big name team, honestly, I mean, they don't have too many chances to play the big name teams. Who really wants to play a good mid-major team? So it's hard to punish them for that. And I mean, 31-0 is really tough to do regardless of who's on your schedule. I mean, you're trying to tell me, somebody else is going to say, well, if Auburn was there, they would have. I don't think Auburn would have won every game against that schedule. I really don't. I mean, there's nothing that they've done that would make me think that they would win every single game against every opponent that Miami did. I just am not going to be too jaded by the whole, they play in a great conference. The SEC is so amazing, but they lost a lot of games. I mean, I think Miami, Ohio, while it's true, Kiev, there's two different discussions here. I mean, you could say, who would be favored, Miami of Ohio versus, whatever other team you're going to say, big from Power Four. And if somebody says, well, then if the other team would be favored, then they should be in. Well, I don't think that's really how it goes. I mean, if that's how it went, we'd have a lot different looking playoffs in college football the last few years.
Oh yeah.
The bracket we can't just say, well, whoever is favored by the odds makers who should make it in. I understand that people are going to use that as an excuse or a reason, but I think that Miami has done so much this year. That would really be a shame if they didn't at least make it in. I get that maybe they'll get shipped to Dayton and they have to play in a game like that. But if they don't at least get to that point, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. What about you?
Yes, I would be disappointed if they will get shipped to Dayton most likely. And I mean, it's not like UNC Greensboro has been better. The UNC Asheville's been better. It's just like they're really bad this year. And that's, some of their at-large games. I mean, the MAC is just pretty bad in general, minus Akron and them. I guess Kent State is okay, but they're not as good as some of the old Kent State teams. And Wright State, they beat a tournament team right there, big time. Wright State, right? Wright State won their conference tournament, but it was on the road. Now, I think they're in, but it doesn't mean I'm going to bet on them. We're going to watch the numbers on them. I'm a person that believes that everybody that goes undefeated in this long of a schedule has to be in. It is absolutely ridiculous not to. Now, if you want to talk about Liberty playing football and they're playing all the cupcakes, that's a little bit different in a 12-game schedule. This is 30s. So that's my thoughts On that one, Bobby, the Big Ten streak of non-championship seasons is still it's mind-boggling, and I can go down a whole different tangent on why I think some of that is, and I'm not going to, but I will say that there's some opportunities that should have happened. Unfortunately, they had to play names like Duke and Michigan played, I think, a name called UConn, and so there's reasons we lost, but it is mind-boggling. But I will say that I think Illinois and Michigan and even Wisconsin, as Kyle said, these are our hopes, but we're just going to have to see how the bracket breaks down. It is mind-blowing, Bobby. That is absolutely wrong. It's like that. It's also tough to see. Crazy how good Florida just has become since you think, okay, this is Florida's out this year. No, they were just teasing with us, and they just had too good of a coach over there. Let's get into some of these games then for Friday, Kyle. And I don't know, we don't talk. I noticed this one immediately. I'm going to see what the line is right now. I'm hoping it's still the same thing, because I don't think it is going to be the same thing by tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I think this is going to drop, and it's still there, but it's juiced. It's Wisconsin plus 8.5 at minus 115. Kyle mentioned it already, and I like Wisconsin, and I think they have another shot to beat Illinois. Now, was Illinois a little bit injured when they played Wisconsin? Absolutely. But they also were playing at home, and Wisconsin did not let off. Now, the problem with Wisconsin for teams like Illinois is this one thing. If you're just running up and down the court, and sometimes Illinois does that, they're a little bit less this year in pace, but I think that's a little bit of a skewed pace number, because I think their first halves are a lot faster. That's how Wisconsin likes to play, and that's how they get in rhythm. That's how Nick Boyd gets in rhythm, right? That's how John Blackwell gets in rhythm, the two amazing guards that Wisconsin has. And that's not how you want to play Wisconsin. You want to slow the clock. You want to play real defense. You want to get in their face when they're shooting. You want to draw charging fouls. I mean, what's funny is that's how Wisconsin used to play. But there's not really that many Big Ten teams that slow it down to a crawl completely, other than even Iowa. But Iowa's defense isn't that good. They just play really slow. I think that it's a bad matchup for Illinois, because Wisconsin would love to run up and down the court with them. And to be honest with you, this total at 155.5, Kyle, I think that might be a little bit shy. So I'm going with the Badgers and their guards here against a poor matchup with Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think the total's a little too low too, Kiev. That was the one I was looking at. There was either Wisconsin team total over or the game over. I think Wisconsin can probably score points here. Illinois is not great defensively. What are they great at? They're great at offense and being really efficient. That's not entirely true, that statement down there either by Sean. But
well, Sean, I'll read it. Sean Higgs says Kyle's been betting his entire adult life and has kids yet no grays in that goatee. I think Kyle's meaning he's dyeing his goatee, right? Like
I mean, I am all about
like Ryan Day. He's turning into Ryan Day over here. He's dyeing his beard, from what I'm hearing.
Listen. I'm about to turn 42, not 22, Kiev. So I mean, this is, there are some grays showing up down there, and I might have to trim it back a little bit just so you don't see as much, because the grays show up there. So, this is not a completely fair statement here by Sean, but yeah, I appreciate Sean. He's a good guy. No, I wouldn't say I go the Ryan Day route too much, but yeah, it's not. There's no grays showing up is not accurate either. No. I'm about to get rid of the beard for the year. I think it's gonna last here another week or so, and then it's gonna be like, the wife is like, no more. So,
well, what's Wisconsin's? What back on track? I was
going to say, we got off topic here, Sean. It's Sean's fault.
It is his fault. 84 is what KenPom has as a team total. What's funny, it's actually going to be lower than that, because KenPom has this at 161 and it's still at 155.5. This is going to go up to 158.5. All right. I know it's on a neutral and it's in Indianapolis, but it's going to go up. So you can grab that 155.5 now. Or the team total is not coming out until tomorrow, and for most cases, right? Unless you have a super amazing book. But I'm going to say team total over 82 is probably a fair number. Would you say? Yeah.
Taking a team total for which
Wisconsin.
side?
Wisconsin's team total.
Wisconsin's going to be a lot lower than that. That would be Illinois.
Oh, sorry, you're right. You're right. I was
And I
looking.
see a couple lines even for Wisconsin of 73.5, which I think that's a good bet. Yeah.
That's a great bet. You know, it's funny. I
Yeah.
was my fandom got in the way. I was expecting Wisconsin to win, so I was looking at the winning number here. That's what I was doing on Gun Bomb. You're right. It's Illinois favored 84 to 77. So I think this is going to be like 74, 75, something like that. I mean, do you think you think even lower?
I mean, I see a couple 73.5s available. So I'm going to bet the 73.5. I'll be transparent and tell people who are listening. If you're listening back, this is a bet that I'm going to be making personally. I think Wisconsin plus the points is a good bet, but I like Wisconsin team total over a little bit more because I think this could be a shootout.
Well, we picked the same game, didn't we? So here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. We can talk about any game. You know that.
Well, we're going to talk about some more games because we both picked one, and I'll just go into the one I'll give you another play. I'm taking Miami. I'm taking them plus the 4.5 against Virginia. I like Virginia. I think it's nice to finally see Virginia be good again because there's a while where they're missing the tournaments here and everything when Tony Bennett retired, and now Ryan Odom's doing a pretty good job over there. After finally they got rid of Sanchez, right? And they're a little different. They do play faster, but they still kind of keep that good defense. There's no like NBA stars on this team, but they're just well put together. But Miami has, I think, a little bit more talent there. Miami is playing lights out defense, and wow, are they rebounding the ball, Kyle? This is one of the top rebounding teams out there. Sure, they're not defending the three quite as good, but you're playing a Virginia team that, 66th they rank in 3-point percentage. It's not like they have the best three. They do shoot quite a few of them. 46.7% of their shots are threes, but Miami coming off a hot win against Louisville. They should have won against Louisville at home, but Louisville shot 50% from three. And then before that, they went on a hell of a run, winning 7 out of their last 8 ACC games. And these aren't the worst. This is like North Carolina, NC State, Virginia Tech, Florida State, SMU. These are some pretty good ones, minus Duke. This is the only ACC matchup I didn't see happen was Duke versus Miami, which is very interesting. And that could still happen. So I think Miami keeps it close. I think at 4.5 is too much. So I'm taking Miami.
I kind of like the under in that game. I think that would be my favorite bet in that game. I'm not 100% sure what all games I'm going to bet here tomorrow yet, Kiev, but one other one that I am keeping an eye on that I would be interested in is the Davidson and St. Joe's game. I'm wondering if that total will go up enough that I bet the under in that one. That's one of them at PPG Paints Arena. Davidson plays slow. St. Joe's is definitely slowed down this year. They're better at defense than most people realize. I think under, you get in the mid 130s. I think that could be a good play. I was kind of hoping Fordham would win today so we could take another Fordham under here. Those were so good this year.
I know, right? They've been amazing.
It's like I'm checking the score. I'm like, oh, come on, Fordham, win one more. Yeah, I think Davidson St. Joe's under is one that I'll be considering. Others, Kent State and Akron. I mean, a great game where they rivalry, and now they're playing in the MAC semis. 164.5, Kiev. I mean, that's pretty high for a game that's this important. I mean, I don't know if I really want to bet the under, but 164.5 is really high. I'm gonna at least think about it, and I think I would lean Kent plus 7 there, 7.5 in that one. I'm thinking that's such a rivalry game. I think that one will go down to the wire, at least pretty close to the wire. And Akron deserving as a favorite, but I think 7.5 is a lot of points to be laying there in a spot like that.
I see 6.5 on FanDuel, and
yeah.
I'll disagree. And we don't disagree often. But here's the thing. They played twice, and Akron has really owned them, winning by double digits both times. And this is kind of go well into double digits here for some reason. And this is a great rivalry, like you said, but Akron is just kind of on a tear. And now they have an open space right now because They know Miami, Ohio's out. They can really, really attack. And I know you're not betting it. You're kind of just looking at it. But I'm going to consider betting Akron and laying points, but it's not yet at 6.5 minus 120. If this goes back up to 8 or 9, I'm out. But dude, if this can kind of like get to a better 6.5 number, that's what I was looking at, because I feel like Akron is ready to put their foot down.
Well, what I am considering betting is the under. I think under 164.5 is the hold your nose type of bet that I might eventually make, and just know that there could be a decent amount of pace. But I mean, all it takes is one kind of stretch where they don't shoot that well. 165 is pretty tough to get to, and win or go home type of game. That would be my favorite bet there. You want to just hit on a couple of the other games briefly?
Let's do it, man. Let's hit on the other games, and I do agree that total's too high for a big game here. Let's look at this Tennessee against Vandy. It's funny. This is pretty much a pick 'em here. It's not often where I see a 0.5 thrown up on FanDuel. Our friends at FanDuel here have that number, and that's kind of fun. I was on Tennessee with a parlay today. I teamed them up with God, I can't remember. I made it minus 110, and it ended up working out for us. It was Virginia. Actually, I was on Tennessee and Virginia today, and Tennessee was down for a while, and then they came back. Well, Tennessee's got their boy back, that freshman that's really good on their team, and he's been playing just lights out basketball. And I do not like Rick Barnes, dude. I'm not betting Tennessee, but I will say that it's just fun to see Ament play so well. And now that he's back, it's kind of just giving them a boost. They suck without Ament, dude. This is a bad Tennessee team without Ament. So I'm not saying I'm betting the other side either. I'm staying away from this one. I find it interesting that they kind of split. They both kind of got like a road revenge type situation this year when they played. I did bet Vanderbilt at Tennessee without Ament about last Saturday even, and that worked out well for me. But it's funny to see the grudge match here now, to split the two games to see who gets bragging rights.
Yeah, I don't know who I would bet in that game, to be honest. You know how I feel about Rick Barnes as you get later in the season, and that can be tricky. I think somebody's probably fading Rick Barnes here at the end of the season because the line has moved toward Vandy. It's kind of flipped through the 1 to 1.5. Obviously not a huge line move there, but Bridgestone Arena, it's close to both places, but Vandy is right there. So, maybe a bit of a home court advantage. I think this is a game that I'd rather watch than I would bet here between these two. I don't really know what I would take.
Agreed. Looks like Georgetown's about to upset Nova 73-60 with a minute 30 left. That's interesting too. Big East. All right, Kentucky, Florida. People talking up the rematch. Man, this Kentucky team, I faded them and I took LSU, and it got real dicey. I started getting Plinko-y at the end, but LSU, thank God, like you said, they watching these teams still fight even when they're out of the game. Unlike some teams we see in the NBA, is always fun to watch, and LSU lost by 5. Well, Kentucky was down to Missouri for a little while too. And then that game was a little back and forth. Kentucky ended up covering that game. Missouri is so hot and cold. They're inconsistent. They can't stop a 3. I feel like Florida is just so good right now. Their front court's amazing. And, ever since they lost to Auburn, they just flipped a switch, man. A serious switch. I would say even back when they lost to Missouri on January 3rd, they lost Auburn afterwards. But this Florida team they're not quite as good as last year with Clayton, but I do like Alex Condon, who returned. Xavier Lee is awesome. And Boogie Fland, who came in from, I believe, Arkansas last year, is playing really good guards. So this Florida team, I'm not going to go against them. I could see a team total for Florida going over. What are your thoughts on this?
I think Florida is probably too good. 10.5, 11. It's tough to know what to think there. Also 160 or 159.5 total in a hockey arena where these guys are more used to shooting there in that kind of arena than what the small schools are. So it doesn't make as big of a difference as when you go to the MVC or something like that. But
right.
It's still tough to take over at that kind of number. I think Florida is a different team if Xavier Lee is making some of his jump shots. At the beginning of the year, he made absolutely nothing. I mean, he was just shooting horribly.
You couldn't hit a
Xavier,
three.
yeah, he couldn't make a three to save his life. And I mean, even for the season, he's below 28%, but it's largely because of how bad he started. And I think their upside is very high when Xavier Lee is playing well. And I mean, I don't think Kentucky can match their upside. I really don't. So I would want to bet Florida. I just don't know if I can lay that many points.
Agreed. How about the big game, Ohio State versus Michigan? Wait, this ain't football. Come
No.
on, it's got to have some of the same meaning, Kyle. There's got to be some sort of a rivalry here still, right? Does everyone get all fired up like they normally do with football?
Oh, nothing like it is for football, that's for sure. But 13 points. I don't know, Kiev. I mean, I think Michigan, like I said, I think Michigan's probably the most likely to win the championship. Ohio State's playing better lately.
Ohio State's playing really good lately, I think.
Ohio State first half here, maybe, like, because they could wear down a bit. I don't know that they're as consistent as Michigan, but I would bet Ohio State plus 13 before I laid that many points. I'll say that for sure.
I'll write that down. Ohio State first half, where you can get 8.5, 9, 8, maybe something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, Ohio State's playing great ball. They won their last 4 in a row games, and that was even against Purdue, Fraud, Indiana. They have been a little bit rougher away from home. After that Wisconsin loss, they beat Wisconsin. They beat Wisconsin at home, and then they went to Michigan State and lost by 6. They're a little bit inconsistent, but I kind of think that Dealer's got them going, man. I think the coaches kind of finally got these guys going, and you got to love Thornton, right? Bruce Thornton's a very good point guard. Brandon Noel's been out for over half the season, but not too many injuries. Tilly's a big dude down there, and he's got to be a little bit more accurate. But
Bynum's been playing great for them. It's a big guy. That him emerging as the freshman down low that's playing really well has made a big difference for Ohio State. I think his emergence at the end of the season has really changed them because they needed somebody down low other than Tilly who can be pretty inconsistent. And I think Bynum's a decent shot blocker. He's been pretty good on defense. He's a guy who's very strong, can put up a little hook shot down low, can get putbacks, things like that. I think he's made a big difference. And then Mobley's a great outside shooter. I mean, you can't leave him open at all. Great range. So I would take Ohio State plus the points, but I will say this, Kiev, I don't really like betting Ohio State games. So I will not be taking Ohio State, but that's what I would recommend if you were.
Well, you can take the first half. I like the first half play. St. Louis is playing George Washington, right? And you got that big injury to the Billikens with Avila. Robbie Avila he got hurt last game. I didn't get we're not going to get any info on him, but I mean, he's such a big line mover, isn't he? It's just going to be fun to watch where this goes.
Yeah, I pretty immediately said that's a game that I don't want to bet based on unknown. St. Louis has been kind of wild back and forth too. I mean, how did they lose by like 30 points to George Mason? This is a team that doesn't make too much sense to me. I know some people are like St. Louis could do some major damage in the tournament. I think it would kind of surprise me if they do some major damage in the NCAA tournament. They're a fun team. They definitely need Avila to be healthy. And, George Washington's a pretty good team too. They were without Castro for a good while. You remember that there toward the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And with Castro, I think their upside is much higher. So, I think I would lean toward George Washington plus 6.5, but I don't know that I'll bet that one.
Yeah, I'll lean towards that too. I mean, it's like Ken Palm's got it at 6 anyway. So it's almost like a free roll at that point. If Avila is going to be out, maybe he's in, and I am just crazy because I haven't looked him up in a little bit. But I know he did get injured in his last game here. Yeah, we'll see. Let's move on to another. Let's talk about Charlotte UAB. What do you,
I've
what do you
got one I
think?
want to talk about after this too. Charlotte UAB. All right. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, UAB is favored by 4.5, and UAB was really good for a while in the American. This year has been, not as good. Um, I think that UAB is kind of a weird team. How they, they play fast, but they don't turn the ball over. They can't hit shots. They're 363rd in 3-point percentage, 309th in effective field goal percentage, and they rebound better on defense. So it's almost like you look at the numbers for UAB's pace, even though it ranks 90th, it's really more of an unders team. And I feel like Charlotte, I haven't been to a lot of Charlotte games, but they play super slow. And you're looking at a total of 146 and a half, Kyle. 146. Charlotte's defense sucks, but I
Yeah.
mean, this is a tournament game. It's on a neutral court at Legacy Arena. I see a lot more ways this thing, famous last words of overtime. I see a lot more ways this thing goes under 146 and a half points.
I think I would side with UAB if I was taking a side here. I like that they've won a lot of games away from home. This is a team that can win in multiple ways. I don't like that Charlotte can't play defense, but they play so slow. Like it makes it really tough to handicap their totals. Kiev, I don't think I've bet a single total for Charlotte the entire season. So I don't know if I'm the best person to ask about a total for Charlotte, just because you project out the pace. You say, yeah, but I mean, what's the efficiency going to look like here? I mean, This could be UAB is going to be trying to push pace. They're very good at not turning the ball over. So I think what I'm most convinced of is that UAB will score points. So maybe UAB team total over or UAB minus the points.
Okay. Which one did you want to talk about?
Iowa State and Arizona.
All right. Iowa State and Arizona. I mean, I looked at that line a little bit and seen 3.5, and I'm not going to lie. I was leaning Arizona at that number. Iowa State, man, they have some inconsistency with them sometimes. What do you think?
Well, I don't want to give away I think we have one more question coming up later, and I don't want to give everything away, but I think I might like the under a little bit here. I think Iowa State's defense needs to be what leads them in a game like this. And I think Arizona is better defensively than people realize. I mean, this team is definitely better, Arizona is, at defense than they are at offense. They just play really fast. They have really, really good 2-point defense. You don't get into the paint easily against them. Second chances are hard to come by. Iowa State's a really good defensive team too. They're always good under Otzelbarger. I mean, I think that Iowa State, the key to them is whether somebody like Tamin Lipsey can start making more shots. He hasn't really played very well this year. Momcilovic is very good, shooting almost 50% from 3-point range. I like the under somewhat in this game. The only thing that scares me here, Kiev, is this is that weird court where they've been saying like people are sliding around with the it feels like glass is what I've been reading. Like, do I want to take an under when, everybody's like, well, we're slip sliding all over the place here on this gray court in Kansas City. That's my lean. As far as the side, I don't know. You're liking Arizona -4 or 3.5 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not liking it. I'm not to a point where it's a bet yet, but I'm going to kind of study it a little bit more because Iowa State is inconsistent and they've always been bad away from home. But I also will say they've done good in this tournament too, which is a little bit different. Great point on Lipsey. I think when Lipsey is shooting like over 35-40%, they just destroy teams. And then sometimes when he gets cold, they're not. He's only at 31.6% from 3. And, if you look at him from last year, he was at 33.1%. I guess that's not a huge difference, but still he's regressed a little bit. Okay. 2 years ago, he was at 39% from 3. And that's when Iowa State really was cooking, So I don't know. Joshua Jefferson's a beast down low, but the problem is when they get in foul trouble too, then they can get in some serious trouble. They had a pretty easy road. Arizona State started out 1 for 19 from 3, and Texas Tech is normally a 3-point team, but they didn't have JT Toppin, and they were gassed, just from the exhausting finish to the season without Toppin, and I understand that. I thought Iowa State had a pretty easy road to Arizona. I'm gonna see if I can get a 3, but we'll see what happens.
Fair. I'll probably pass on the side and consider the under, but I'm not sure if I'll bet that one.
All right, well, beer bet bangers then. Let's bring it on, my man. Let's see what you have. You kind of give us a little hint. Where is Kyle going with his anything plus money, really?
So, do we want to do? It could be futures. It could be a game tomorrow, like a
Whatever you
underdog
want.
that could win outright.
Whatever you want.
I was gonna go with Iowa State to reach the Final Four. So this is Iowa State to reach the Final Four. I see this one in the range of implied probability of about 17 or 18% in the market. So do I really think they'll make the Final Four? I'm not real confident they'll make the Final Four, but they're a really good defense who, if Tamin Lipsey makes some shots, their upside's really high. And the Big 12's good. I mean, they played a lot of good teams throughout the course of the season. I think that they're undervalued because they didn't play very well for a while. And now they win by 50 points or something against Arizona State. They blow away Texas Tech. I know they don't have Toppin, but they were still playing pretty well. I think Iowa State is a dangerous team. Now, that's why the reason I'm not wanting to bet them tomorrow is I also think Arizona is really good. But if the bracket falls right, I think they could make a deep run. So them plus money at a big plus price to reach the Final Four is something I like.
Oh, I like it because I bet it like 2 months ago.
Nice.
I mean, I can hope so too. I'm on your side. I think
Yeah.
I didn't get the greatest number, but it was that was when they were hot. I'm gonna go with the dog. I'm gonna go with Nebraska to upset Purdue, and they're 4.5, and this kind of qualifies for our Spaces show that we have. Anything plus 4.5 or more. I got them at one plus 154. I see at 1 plus 146 now. Purdue's, there's something wrong with them. They just have no real front court game. They're not tough down low. They kind of lived on their big man, for too long, like Zach Edey, right? It just feels like just having. They always had that one guy that was just such a stud, or a couple guys that were a stud. Remember Carson Edwards, Travion Williams. Carson Edwards, sorry, he was a point guy. I meant to say Travion Williams and Bordeaux, and some of those guys were just absolute massive dudes down there, and they did live on those guys, and they don't have that because I think that Trey Kaufman-Renn has been a huge disappointment. He's skinny. He gets pushed around down low. And Nebraska's just kind of a well put together team this year. And Nebraska almost beat Purdue on a kind of a bad shooting night at home. They lost to Purdue eventually, but it went to overtime. And, you got 4.5 points here, so it could be a bet too. But I'll take them on the money line.
It's funny, Kiev, because if you'd have told me take an underdog on the money line to win 4.5 or more, that's what I would have taken. So
Right.
we do think a lot alike on those. And I always like to see that.
Well, that is absolutely awesome, Kyle. And we're out of time. Love the fact that you came on and broke down the rest of these conference championships. I just wish that we knew what we were playing with on Saturday. But hey, we'll put out some tweets there, and I'll probably put out a couple plays at the Odds Breakers. Kyle, where could our listeners get your great stuff and find out what's going on over at Kyle Hunter Picks?
Yeah, you can check out the website at huntersportspicks.com. Follow me there at Kyle Hunter Picks on Twitter, X. Free picks newsletter. You can sign up for that over there if you don't want to buy the plays. If you want to buy the plays, you can. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm always happy to answer any questions. It's been a really good season. I mean, I think it's 151 and 92 or 152 and 92 at this point. So really, really good season. And try to finish it strong. What is it? A few weeks we're going to be talking about baseball. So let's enjoy the. Not that I'm not dissing baseball. I'm saying this is this is the end of college basketball here. So let's enjoy the last few weeks we have.
Absolutely, let's enjoy it before we have to get into baseball and some of the other a little bit more of a relaxing sport, and then we'll get into football again. Make sure you guys check out Kyle Hunter. Follow Kyle Hunter at Kyle Hunter Picks. Kyle will be texting best luck this weekend.
Sounds good. Thanks.